The feed began with static. Counselors leaned forward in their high-back seats as the grainy footage stabilized. An overhead satellite view of Voxalis Prime, a quiet neutral colony where humans and Zerati coexisted, flickered into clarity. And then, without warning, the massacre. Explosions tore through the human quarter. Civilian transports incinerated on landing pad. Automated defense towers, reprogrammed, swiveled inward. Screams echoed from handheld cameras, cut short by the hollow clatter of plasma fire. None of the humans returned fire. They were unarmed. High Chancellor Velrix's mandibles clicked once. He gestured. The screen paused on a single frame. A child, face turned to the sky, eyes wide as a council gunship loomed overhead. Unfortunate, Velrix muttered, voice clipped and dry. But necessary. The chamber murmured, low and unsure. Necessary? Counselor ReSS from the Krell system hissed. They were civilians. Velrix didn't blink. Their presence on Voxalis violated neutrality protocols. The Zerati forces reacted within their rights. Before ReSS could respond, another screen illuminated behind them. Unauthorized broadcast, planetary-wide. It was Earth. A woman in a stark black uniform stood against a field of stars, her face unreadable. This is Commander Elise Rourke of Earth Defense Command. You slaughtered our citizens. There will be no negotiations. Static surged. Then the Council's live planetary feed shifted, unintentionally, uncontrollably, to a live broadcast. Voxalis Prime. 23 target. White-hot beams carved down from orbit. Precision strikes, not a single one off by a meter. Power plants, military complexes, and communication hubs, gone in seconds. The Zerati garrison scrambled, but there was no enemy to see. Only orbital shadows. In less than 2 minutes, Voxalis was dark. Not leveled, not bombed indiscriminately. Dissected. The screen cut to black. Rourke's voice returned. You drew first blood. We don't draw second. Then silence. Commander Elise Rourke stood on the bridge of the Eidolon, her flagship, high above Earth. No cheers followed the strike. Her officers said nothing. They didn't need to. Collateral, she asked. Lieutenant Jian adjusted his headset. 76 Zerati casualties. No civilian death. Targets neutralized. She nodded. Footage. Already seeded into open council comms. Good. She turned to her operations officer. Full blackout across Seoul. No incoming transmissions until I say otherwise. Yes, ma'am. Her hands rested on the rail, knuckles tight. 4 weeks, she'd warned the council. Earth had tolerated being spoken down to, regulated, sanctioned. They'd played the diplomat's game. But Voxalis crossed a line she wouldn't let fade behind redacted reports and bureaucratic delay. She knew what would come next. Velrix would call for sanctions. Maybe war. She didn't care. On Varys Prime, within the spire of the council chambers, panic took root beneath polished control. Heinous, Velrix spat. A direct strike on council territory. This cannot go unanswered. Ambassador Rill of the Thorak turned his narrow eyes toward him. And Voxalis? Velrix flared his frills. An internal matter. Earth had no jurisdiction. Rill snorted. They just took it. The room fell into fractious silence. Back aboard the Eidolon, Rourke entered her private war room. A holographic projection of the Council's known fleet structure rotated slowly. Red tags blinked beside vulnerable jump relays, supply chains, and communications node. Major Harlow stepped in behind her. Council's holding emergency session. Velrix is pushing for a full embargo. Rourke didn't look up. Expected. He's calling the strike a war crime. She turned, eyes sharp. And what was Voxalis? A firm rebuke. Harlow didn't answer. Spin up Phase 2, she ordered. Prepare our orbital countermeasures. If they come, they won't get close. You think they'll strike Seoul? I think they'll test us. And they'll lose. Velrix paced his private chamber, claws clicking against marble. Earth's move had been too calculated. The precision, the restraint. Not blind vengeance, surgical fury. He activated a secure channel. An insectoid officer flickered into view. How many fleets do we have within range of Sol? 3, Chancellor. Combined strength. 9 carriers, 43 warships. They await orders. Velrix hesitated. Ready them. He ended the call and stared out over Varys' twin suns. On Earth, dusk fell across New Geneva. Massive orbital cannons tracked the skies silently. Civilian life continued, unaware of the diplomatic firestorm overhead. In her quarters, Rourke sat alone, watching old footage, Voxalis before the strike. Children playing. A market square. Laughter. She closed the file. Duty, not vengeance. The door chimed. Jien entered, holding a datapad. Transmission from Velrix's office. Encrypted. Marked urgent. Rourke took it, scanned the message. A demand for explanation. A ceasefire proposal, veiled in threat. She tapped one word into the reply box. Declined. Then she set the pad down, eyes narrowing. Let them come. The Council fleet entered Sol without ceremony. No banners. No warnings. Just a flash of displacement, a ripple in the deep black, and 9 carriers with escorting warships materialized near Pluto's orbit. Their hulls were painted obsidian, starless against the void. No signals were sent, none acknowledged. They advanced like a silent wall of judgment, engines humming low and slow, the threat implicit in their quiet. In New Geneva's Orbital Defense Command, alarms didn't scream. They pulsed. A red pulse, slow and measured, like a heartbeat under duress. Commander Elise Rourke entered the chamber. Status, she said. Colonel Murrin, head of Orbital Defense, stepped forward. Fleet confirmed. Transponder signals match Council warship. 43 total, carriers leading. Movement. Straight vector through Neptune's shadow. Not cloaked, but quiet. Not firing. Yet. Rourke studied the screen. The formation wasn't exploratory. It was a show of force. Or a test. They're probing, she muttered. Jien leaned toward her. Council protocol requires a challenge code once they breach the second planetary perimeter. If they don't transmit one. They're not here to talk, she said. On board the Eltharion, the lead Council flagship, High Admiral Sorkael regarded Earth with undisguised distaste. From his command dome, he watched the sun reflect against Earth's orbital defense grid, those massive rotating cannons designed for deterrence, not diplomacy. Chancellor Velrix is clear, he said to his comms officer. We are to hold position until provoked. And if they don't provoke? A pause. We provoke them. Behind him, his tactical officer was already uploading Earth's satellite schematic. Their grid is old but custom. No clear weak points. Sorkael narrowed his eyes. No such thing as no weak points. Keep scanning. Disrupt if needed. Back on Earth, the Eidolon sat docked above atmosphere, powered but quiet, like a dagger waiting to be drawn. Rourke paced her private operations suite, where a ring of advisors surrounded a 3D projection of the intruding fleet. They're baiting us, said Major Harlow. Come out and strike, make us look like aggressors again. They already painted us as monsters, Rourke replied. Voxalis footage is under investigation. No one's calling it a war crime but us. Jien pointed to the carrier flanking formation. This one, Zarin, is a mobile factory ship. It deploys drones, not fighters. That's not standard invasion protocol. They're not invading, Rourke said. They're studying us. Harlow raised an eyebrow. And I'm going to give them something worth studying. 3 hours later, a single human vessel exited Lunar Shadow. The Lancet, a reconnaissance frigate, unarmed, unshielded, running cold. It coasted slowly past the Council fleet. Passive, silent, its signal lights blinking in even civilian intervals. Sorkael narrowed his eyes. What is that? His sensor officer frowned. It's not transmitting any warnings. No shields. Hull seems hollow. Scan it. There was a delay. Then confusion. No engine signature. No crew. It's empty. The Lancet glided straight toward the heart of the Council formation. Shoot it, Sorkael snapped. One of the escort destroyers obeyed. A single pulse cannon fired. The Lancet exploded. Not with debris, but with signal. A pulse burst across the electromagnetic spectrum. Not a weapon. A mirror. It bounced scans back at the Council fleet, encrypted and amplified. Earth had just mapped every thermal seam, every shield distortion, every propulsion variance the Council ships had. Earth had scanned them. It was too late to stop it. Rourke watched it all from the Eidolon. A faint smirk traced her lips. They wanted to stare at the bear, she said. Now they know the bear stares back. Within the hour, the Zarin launched its first wave of drones, ostensibly for defensive positioning. Earth's grid responded instantly. Not with weapons, but with a signal. A synthetic voice spoke across all channels. This is Earth Defense Command. You are violating sovereign orbital boundaries. Withdraw now. Last warning. Sorkael responded with silence. Then a second wave of drones launched. That was the line. From Earth's orbit, 3 stealth ships uncloaked, not near the Council fleet, but above them. They didn't fire. Instead, they jammed. Every Council sensor suddenly misfired. Optical targeting scrambled. Comms fluttered. Even local internal ship systems blinked momentarily out. And in that disorientation, Rourke deployed her second move. Microsatellites, no larger than fists, detached from the planetary ring. Each carried a single task payload. EMP bursts, data siphons, decoys. They moved like insects, thousands of them. Too small to shoot. Too fast to intercept. And each found a blind spot. Sorkael's face twisted. Disable them. His officers tried. Failed. They're inside our signal bands. Then we jam them. They are the jammers. Rourke watched the chaos bloom. In the Council chamber, Velrix was livid. They dare strike Council vessels in neutral space. Ambassador Rill of the Thorak didn't bother to hide his amusement. You brought warships to their home system. It was a message. And Earth answered. Velrix turned, nostrils flaring. You support this madness? I support survival. You miscalculated. Earth isn't posturing. They are primitives. No, Rill cut in sharply. They are predators. And you're bleeding into their territory. Above Earth, the Council fleet finally withdrew. Not all at once. Not in retreat. Just recalibrated. Pulled back toward the Jovian moons. An unofficial ceasefire. Back aboard the Eidolon, Rourke exhaled. Her jaw was tight, her fingers clenched behind her back, but her voice remained calm. Damage. Jien smiled faintly. None on our end. They're spooked. Good, she said. Let them think we're unpredictable. Harlow stepped forward. Do we pursue diplomatic talks? Not yet. Not until they bleed a little dignity. She walked to the viewport, Earth a pale marble below. They asked who we were, she said softly. Now they know we don't wait for war. We end it before it begins. On Gar A Prime, the Council convened under dim violet light. The chamber was built to intimidate, tiered stone seating, high vaulted arches, and a central floor reserved for condemnation. But tonight it stank of doubt. Velrix stood in the center. We sent 43 warships, he hissed, his voice sharp enough to cut metal. 43, and Earth didn't even flinch. They dismantled our scans, countered our probes, and shamed our formation, without firing a single railgun. No one interrupted. Even the Krovan delegation, known for posturing, sat still. Velrix turned slowly. This is not just an insult. It is a warning. And if we do not respond, it becomes precedent. From the upper seat, Counselor Aaron Thal of the Hinari faction leaned forward. You wanted them to show their strength, she said. Now they have. You sound impressed. I'm concerned. Because if Earth is holding back, what does full war look like to them? Velric sneered. Then we make them show it. Completely. In orbit above Saturn's Titan station, Admiral Rourke monitored incoming Council movements. The previous standoff hadn't slowed them, it had agitated them. Now, fresh ships dropped into the system. No signals. No diplomacy. Just presence. They're back, Jian said. How many? Only 5 this time. Heavy destroyers. No carriers. No formation. They're testing again. Rourke tilted her head, watching the tactical map shift. The Council's movements weren't military precision anymore. They were irritated. Embarrassed. Have they crossed the Helios line? Not yet. Hovering near the orbit of Iapetus. She turned to Captain Lyra on the upper deck. Time to try a new strategy. New? Lyra asked. Let's show them something ugly. The mission wasn't cleared through Council channels. Earth didn't ask permission. In silence, the Krite launched. It was an old gunship, retrofitted with kinetic lance systems, no AI, no digital targeting. Manual controls. Primitive by Council standards. It slipped from Titan's shadow and barreled toward the nearest destroyer, the Khazar. Council officers saw it too late. No transponder. No comms. Just speed. Within seconds, the Krite collided with the destroyer's hull, piercing the deflector layer with a primitive tungsten spike. No explosives. Just mass. Speed. Force. The Khazar buckled. On Earth, the broadcast was released before the wreckage had cooled. Camera footage showed every second, up close, uncensored. No heroic music. Just raw kinetic violence. A single ship. One run. One kill. Humanity didn't speak afterward. They didn't gloat. They just let the silence settle. Velric stood before the war board. His aides refused to meet his eyes. They rammed a 1 billion-credit destroyer with scrap metal, he said, flatly. And it worked. Rill of Thorak folded his hands. You're still operating under the illusion that they're playing the same game. Velrix turned. Then explain the rules to me. They have no rules. Not anymore. Earth doesn't play at honor or ceremony. They weaponize shame, fear, silence. Another counselor muttered, What kind of species values suicidal tactics? Rill's voice was quieter this time. The kind that's tired of being judged. Back on Earth, Jian and Rourke walked the observation platform of Luna Command. Below, the blue planet rotated slowly, cloud veils flickering like breath over skin. They'll retaliate, Jian said. Yes, Rourke replied. But not yet. We made them bleed on their own stage. She stopped at the viewport. Velrix is furious, but the Council? The others? They're scared. Jian nodded. They should be. You remember what they did at Voxalis? She asked, not looking at him. He didn't answer. They burned a field hospital, she said. On camera. Claimed it was a weapons site. And not one of their governments raised a question. Now she looked at him. That's why we rammed that ship. In the dark archives beneath New Geneva, Rourke met with a man known only as Cormac. Former intelligence. No official ties anymore. He was surrounded by old monitors, analog maps, coded printouts that never touched the net. You're planning escalation, he said, sipping something strong and unfiltered. I'm planning a mirror, Rourke replied. They showed us how low they'd go. Now we show them what that actually looks like. Cormac smiled faintly. And here I thought you wore that uniform for peace. I wear it for the dead. He slid a file across the table. Operation Scorch Ritual, still in the vault. Black grade clearance. You sure you want it activated? Yes. Even if it ends negotiations? There were never negotiations. Just costumes. In council chambers, the footage kept replaying. Earth's silence after the Krite strike had been louder than any threat. It wasn't posturing. It was mourning. Ritualized violence. A message. We are not warriors. We are what comes after the warriors fail. And suddenly, it wasn't about territory or protocol. It was about fear. In a quiet moment before her next briefing, Rourke watched a grainy clip from decades ago, children in a park on Earth, laughing. One fell, skinned her knee, then stood up, gritting her teeth. No one helped her. She didn't cry. She wiped the blood with her sleeve and kept running. Rourke smiled softly. That was humanity. A blood-red warning light pulsed in the orbital relay over Europa. The Katra Varn, a newly deployed Council dreadnought, had locked weapons on Earth's outer listening post. It was subtle. Just a targeting routine embedded in routine data scans. But humanity wasn't looking at the scans. They were listening to tone. Rourke stood before the command holomap. Her hands were steady. Her eyes were not. That's not posturing, Jian said quietly. No, she replied. That's a line being crossed. A soft beep punctuated the silence. The AI spoke flatly. Orbital uplink from Geneva Command. Chairwoman Okeke on line 1. Rourke accepted. Admiral, Okeke's voice snapped through. You are to respond in kind. No delays. We gave them a warning. They ignored it. Yes, ma'am. And one more thing. Operation Scorch Ritual is greenlit. Full authority granted. God help us. The line went dead. Far across the void, in the inner chambers of Velrix's war fleet, alarms began to chime. Not in panic. Not in chaos. In confusion. The Katra Varn's primary sensors began to fail. Not jammed, overwritten. Its targeting systems stopped acknowledging its own coordinate. Its cannons retracted. Then its power flickered. 37 seconds later, its main reactor ejected itself. A safeguard? A glitch? No. A warning. Back on Earth, Jian stared at the data stream. They've gone blind. They don't even know how, Rourke replied. Just that it happened. Jian looked over. Was that Scorch Ritual? She didn't answer. Hours later, humanity released a new broadcast. No narrator. No threats. Just footage, Council war crimes. Children with radiation burns. Executed aid workers. Footage from inside a civilian pod station as it was vaporized. Then the screen went black. The words appeared in every known galactic language. We remember. This is what comes next. Earth does not negotiate with war criminals. The file was traceable. On purpose. It led to a relay station above the Earth moon named Sisyphus Array. The station wasn't armed. It simply broadcasted, unfiltered, raw, and uninterrupted. Every corner of the galaxy heard it. Back on Gare Prime, Velrix felt it happening. The council chamber was no longer a court. It was a theater. And Earth had taken the stage. He hissed. They've turned public opinion against us. No, Rill corrected. They've exposed it. The opinion was already there. They just gave it shape. We were bringing order. You were bringing chains. And now they've thrown them back. Velrix struck the table. I want Earth silenced. Permanently. If we can't win the crowd, we erase the performers. Earth saw it coming. For more council fleets mobilized from outlying systems. Faster than expected. Silent warp signatures. Minimal comms. They didn't bother with declarations. But Earth wasn't waiting. Rourke addressed her fleet on encrypted net. No grand speech. No theatrics. Just the truth. We hold the line, she said. No further. And if they cross it? Jian asked over a private channel. Rourke stared into the stars. Then we show them how humans bury gods. The battle began in the Kuiper Belt. But it wasn't a battle. It was an execution. Earth's deep space mines, once used for ice extraction, had been reprogrammed. They didn't detonate on impact. They ripped ships apart from inside, with gravitational warping charges laced in repurposed fusion cores. Council warships entered the field confident. They left it in pieces. One by one, each ship was swallowed by the belt. Not by fleet firepower. By Earth's cruelty. By traps laid not with technology, but with memory. Because every mine was named after a lost city. Grozny. Aleppo. Homs. Dresden. A reminder, Earth had been through hell and brought souvenirs. Gar Prime descended into whispers. Velrix refused to face the council. He locked himself in his war chamber, raving at ghosts only he could see. They weren't supposed to fight like this, he muttered. They were supposed to submit. To follow the structure. You tried to crush a world that already crushed itself, said Arenthal, standing silently in the doorway. He didn't look at her. You turned Earth into a myth. She stepped closer. Now you'll become one too, just the cautionary kind. In the silent chamber of the Sisyphus array, Admiral Rourke stood alone. The feed behind her flickered. Messages from across the stars. Not threats. Not protests. Just silence. Some in awe. Some in terror. But none in defiance. Jien's voice crackled through her earpiece. We've received a formal communication. Not from the Council, but from their outer members. What do they want? A ceasefire. Independent inquiries. Reparations talks. And the Council? Still screaming. But no one's listening anymore. Rourke finally smiled. 1 week later, the council seat sat half empty. Velrix was gone. No ceremony. No announcement. Just silence. Rourke didn't attend the memorial. She was busy meeting with delegates from 6 former council worlds, all requesting diplomatic normalization with Earth. None brought weapons. Only history books. And apologies. In a quiet forest outside of Anchorage, Alaska, a girl stood barefoot in the snow, her hand resting on a memorial stone. The engraving read, "For those who were silenced. Earth heard you." Beside her, her mother stood in uniform, weathered, silent. The girl finally asked, "Will they come back?" The woman thought long. Then, softly, "If they do, they'll find no victims here. Only survivors." The room in Geneva Command was smaller than most expected. No marble, no banners, just steel, glass, and silence. Admiral Rourke sat at the end of a narrow table, hands folded. Across from her sat 4 envoys from former Council-aligned worlds. None wore uniforms. No medals. They brought only datapads and cautious eyes. Jien stood behind her, flanking the wall. Quiet, attentive. "Let's be honest," said the envoy from Telran 4, voice low. "We didn't come to negotiate. We came to survive." Rourke didn't blink. "Then speak plainly." The second envoy, older, thinner, leaned forward. "We were forced to follow Velrix's decrees. To fund, to arm, to vote. You cheered while we buried our dead," Rourke said, voice quiet. "Do not rewrite that." The Telrani sighed. "Then we offer reparations. Human-led trials. A new system, without the old Empire's shadow." Jien raised an eyebrow. "And what makes you think Earth wants a seat in your halls now?" he asked. "We don't want you in the hall," the older envoy admitted. "We want to build a new one. One where no one's above the law, not even us." There was a pause. Rourke nodded once. "That's a start." A month passed. Earth refused to lead. It offered. Not blueprints, not control. Principles. Each colony that approached was met with a question, not a demand. "What did your people need before this war began?" In orbit above Mars, technicians from 6 worlds worked together to rebuild shattered infrastructure, not for conquest but communication. In the asteroid belts, former pirates turned engineers mapped safe corridors. And above Earth, the Sisyphus array continued to broadcast. Not warnings now, but music. Stories. Languages from before first contact. No translation, just tone. Emotion. Letting the stars feel Earth. On the fringes of known space, an unmarked frigate drifted in silence. Inside, Velrix sat in exile. No guards. No cell. He had vanished from public view not by arrest, but abandonment. He watched old council meetings on loop, his voice echoing across grand chambers. Once so sure, so absolute, now meaningless. The broadcast reached even here. A human child reciting a poem from a war long before space travel. Soft, clear. He turned off the feed. For the first time in his life, Velrix had no plan. No empire. No applause. Only consequence. In Alaska, the monument forest grew. Families walked the quiet trails. No signs. No map. Just stones, each carved with a name. Human and alien. Victims of war, not all earthborn. And in the center stood the memorial flame, lit once, never extinguished. A promise that even in vengeance, Earth had remembered why it fought. Rourke visited once. Alone. No entourage. She placed a single item at the base of the flame, a patch from her uniform, edges frayed from war. She said nothing. The flame flickered once. Then burned steady. Jien remained at her side, though his role had shifted. Less soldier now. More witness. He watched as Rourke met with former enemies, now hesitant allies. He saw her refuse medals, deflect titles, reject command of any interstellar fleet. "We didn't fight to rule," she said once, during a rare press release. "We fought to never kneel again." He remembered those words, because they echoed across stars, and because others believed them. On an agricultural moon orbiting Ganymede, humans and aliens toiled together. A Brakari child laughed as a Terran farmer taught him to plant old earth crop. Wheat. Barley. Soil adjusted, sun modified. No speeches. Just work. No orders. Just understanding. A journalist visiting from a distant system asked the farmer why Earth hadn't demanded tribute. The farmer wiped dirt from his hands and shrugged. "You don't plant in burned soil," he said. "You water it." By Earth's third solar cycle post-war, the stars were quieter. The Council wasn't rebuilt. It dissolved. In its place came the Accord, a loose alliance, open and decentralized. No capital planet. No supreme ruler. Each member signed not for security but accountability. At Earth's insistence, one rule was burned into every charter. No law shall protect the powerful from justice. And above that law, etched on every seal, "We remember." One night, Jien sat beside Rourke at the Geneva Observatory, watching a passing freighter from Ixar 9 arc across the sky. "It's strange," he said. "We didn't win in the traditional sense. No territory, no spoils." Rourke smiled faintly. "That's because it wasn't war." He looked at her. "Then what was it?" Her answer came slowly. "It was a correction." In a classroom on New Terra, a young human girl raised her hand. "Why didn't we destroy the Council worlds when we had the chance?" The teacher paused, then tapped a hologram. A photo appeared, of a Council ship adrift, surrounded by Earth medical vessels. "Because justice isn't vengeance," the teacher said. "And mercy isn't weakness. We fought monsters. We didn't become them." The child nodded thoughtfully. Another student asked, "Will it happen again?" The teacher didn't answer. She just gestured to the words above the door. History watched. And Earth responded. In the end, Earth didn't become a superpower. It became a standard. Not a ruler of space. But a reminder that even in silence the thunder of justice echoes. And that those who ignore humanity's warnings don't face armies. They face memory.